Welcome back to Funky Politics, powered by the Kazuki Network. I am DC, your host of this wonderful program. This is the funky show. It's so funky. Hell, I don't know how funky, but it's funky. I'm just going to tell you it's real funky. And we get into a lot of things on this show. We talk to some wonderful people around the world, not just the country, around the world. Talk to Bungie and Colin there in South Africa. They're great artists, great singers. Sadiqa Reynolds, of course, will be a part of our show today. And she's the president and CEO of the Urban League of Louisville. And we've talked to Sean Waddell. We've talked to a whole host of people, just wonderful folks. We've talked about COVID-19 for so long. I just thought I'd bring you some more information about it. This dreaded virus has really done a number on our country. The leader of our country, I think, has for whatever reason has shirked his responsibility, and I'm hoping that the citizens of our fair nation will tell him how they feel on November 3rd. If you feel good about his leadership, then vote in the affirmative. If you feel that he has shortened our lifespan as citizens of this country, then I think you ought to have a resounding no for his reelection in November, on the 3rd of November. But again, that's 45. I was listening to Dr. Burke, and she said there's a few states that we've still got left in a territory, a few states and one that should be a state, where numbers are increasing. Unfortunately, Maryland, the District of Columbia, which I had a trip planned for another 3 weeks to go to DC, looks like that'll be canceled now, and also Virginia. They are seeing very high test positive rates right now. The numbers are right below 20%, but it's really telling that these governors have basically shut down their states. And of course, Mayor Muriel Bowser has done the same thing for the district, and the numbers are still going up. And for some odd reason, the test positive rates are really increasing. So either we're doing a lot more testing in those areas, and the true numbers are coming out, or people are just getting sicker and sicker and sicker, and they're presenting to these hospitals. Folks, do what you got to do. Stay home. The social distancing, the hand washing, you got to do it. There's some other states out there that look pretty bad as well. Nebraska, the Cornhuskers, Minnesota, as well as Illinois, and they're really concentrating on the city of Chicago. Chicago's numbers are not quite at 20%, but they're pretty high. And of course, the indices are trending toward affecting our communities, and that means our community. I mean, I'm talking about Black people's our community really hard, and we've got to take care of ourselves, right? We are the only ones we got. We are the only ones we got. So let's take care of ourselves, all right? Speaking of taking care of ourselves, got a young lady, as I said earlier, Sadiqa Reynolds, who happens to be the president and CEO of the Urban League of Louisville. She's on the show today. We want to talk a lot about social justice. What does social justice mean to a people who have been oppressed for so many years that we don't even know what justice is anymore, or at least what we consider to be real justice anymore, for the majority of us. And then we want to talk about hopefully an economic upswing in our communities of color who have been oppressed for so many years. But there's got to be some light, because I know there's a tunnel. I know we've been walking down this tunnel from the days of the Underground Railroad. We seemingly are still on a railroad track, but I promise you there's a light at the end of this tunnel. We just got to keep going toward it. All right. So I'll be right back with our very special guest, Sadiqa Reynolds, who'll be talking to us here on Funky Politics and bringing us a word. We need a word. So I'll be right back in just a second. And we are back with Sadiqa Reynolds, the president and CEO of the Urban League of Louisville. Sadiqa, welcome back to Funky Politics. That bright, shining smile on your face. Look at those dimples. Look at it. I love the lime green shirt. Hey, look at you. Look at you. Them Dells are gonna be upset, but no, anyway. Hey, that's just hot red, ain't it? That's that pink.
This is just light red. It's just
Light red.
Yeah, it's just light red.
What is up, sister? How are you? How are you doing?
Oh my goodness. So many emotions. So many emotions. Today has it just so many emotions, like everybody else, but especially people in Louisville. We are going through a lot here in the city. COVID-19.
Yes.
And all of the challenges that has brought with it, of course, on top of already some bad conditions, and now
Sure.
I'm dealing with this police shooting and the consequences of it, and watching this all play out. It's a lot. We're dealing with a lot.
Well, before I go to Louisville, I want to take a trip down south. I want to go down to a couple of counties in Georgia
Mhm.
and talk about an incident there that, for whatever reason, there are those of us, Johnny Come Latelys, DC
Mhm.
is one of them, by a couple of weeks, who really have taken a very in depth look at what's going on there and how justice again appears to be not only blind but on his deathbed.
Mm.
Ahmaud Arbery was, from all indications, basically jogging, looking in a soon to be finished, completed home. Like,
Mhm.
how many times have you gone to a house, walked in, under construction, looked around, just maybe getting some tips and see, well, I wonder what they put in this house? Just being inquisitive, right? Hell nosy. Hell, that's what we are. Just know. And that's nothing. As long as the sign, there's no sign that says no trespassing, right? It ought to be fair game. Why is it that we go from no trespassing to let's go ahead and call out the morgue because I lost one here on the street?
Yeah, I think that we really have to talk about this whole. The truth of the matter is that in America, Black life has not mattered to most white people and most people with power and the ability to really effectuate change in our country. I think we have to really be honest about that. We cannot be afraid to say it. We are held to a very different standard than white America. We are almost expected to really just be perfect, and it's only then that we really get the outcries.
Hmm.
If people were really being honest, they know that if they've lived in a community where there was construction going on, all kinds of neighbors have gone in to see the cabinets, to see everything. Whether there was a no trespassing sign or not was not relevant.
That's
It
true.
was just curiosity. We wanted
Sure.
to see, and people walked in. And white folk have done it. Black folk have done it. It's incredible to think that anyone would imply that he had done something wrong or something that was so far out of the norm that he put himself in harm's way. That is not at all what happened here. You have two, really three
Yeah.
very racist men
Yeah.
who were looking for sport. They were looking for something to do. And because we live in a country that has repeatedly shown that there are no significant consequences for taking the life of a Black man, because in general, there must be something deficient about him.
Hmm.
Why there's no loss to them. And so there are no consequences. And so when you have no consequences, it's like a child. If the child has behavior and you don't correct it, they
Yes.
continue with it. And that's what we are seeing. We are seeing American citizens who get to disobey the law, disregard the law when it comes to our lives. And so we are killed on camera constantly, and there are no consequences. And until we really start ensuring that someone taking our life pays for that, somebody who takes the life of an innocent person, they need to pay. And until we make sure they pay, they're going to continue to do it. And I, for one, I'm a 48-year-old woman with a law degree in Central Air, and I'm tired.
Yeah.
I am tired of this. I
Mhm.
am tired of crying. I'm tired of marching. I want something different. And this is the thing. They know how to be different because there are people who don't get killed. There are people who go into houses to look at the houses and check them out, and they take pictures and they get ideas, and nothing happens to them. There are no consequences. We don't make them the bad guy. So America knows how to be better. She just chooses not to be for her Black citizens. And I'm tired of it.
Sadiqa, I am 53, and I was sharing with our good friend Sean Waddell Jr. how I have got to the point now where I think that his and you're there, you're a warrior. We I've got to get those guys so serious about leading
Mhm.
because it appears that they're not afraid. It's so many folks in my age group that, well, but I'm near my pension. I'm near this. Damn it, we just don't say nothing.
Yeah.
At some point, you get Fannie Lou's. And I'll repeat what she said, and I'll say it again. She said, "You can pray until you faint, but until you get up off your knees, God ain't gonna just drop nothing in your lap. You got to do something about it."
That's right.
What? But now, guess what? The other folks on that other side, I'm not. I don't know if that's their skin color, but they go to these state capitals. They go to Frankfurt.
Mhm.
They go to Lansing. They
Mhm.
go to Nashville, and they go with masks. We ain't talking about man. We talking about covered face and weaponry that looks like they're going on a military coup in Afghanistan. And hell, they'll shout and talk about they're gonna kill the governor, and you don't do a damn thing to them.
Yeah.
What the hell?
I mean, there is. We live in a democracy, but it's not for us. The rules don't apply. Like the castle doctrine doesn't seem to apply in America. The stand your ground doesn't seem to apply to us, and that's why we haven't really seen real change, because we have been very passive about how we go about asking for change. And I think enough is enough. We've got to come up with a different strategy, because the one that we have implored is not working. And we see it all over the country. It's not in there. It's not just in the South. It's not just in the North. It is everywhere. And every day we are shown that our lives don't matter. And then we get this narrative of, well, what about Black on Black crime? And
I was just getting ready to go there with you.
And I appreciate it. If you have lost someone, it doesn't matter how you lose them. It is devastating. Believe me, it is devastating. That being said, I think our community has spoken up about crime. We don't like it. Most of us are not engaged in it. Most of us are working hard and trying to do the right thing every single day. What happens in Black communities is that the narrative about us is so negative that we even begin to believe it. So we don't hear about white on white crime. And I think I talked to you about this before. People kill who they're around. So there is no Black on Black crime epidemic. There is simply an epidemic of criminal behavior that needs to stop. But let's also recognize the fact that when people commit crimes against other groups, there are consequences. But you can kill a Black man, a Black woman on video and have no consequences. That is what we must stop in America. We cannot go on like this. We can't take redlining and poverty and tore up schools and no access to the things that we need. Add on top of all of that police brutality. This is too much. It is too much. Everybody has a breaking point, and we are reaching ours. And that's what people need to be warned about. It's too much, and it needs to stop. And I'm so sorry, but they can stop it. Yes. You know, it's just like when you see police, at the Urban League luncheon, the Louisville Urban League luncheon, maybe 3 years ago, I spent about 7 minutes playing videos, and I showed Black people and their interaction with police. And then I showed white people who had guns, who waved guns, and they were taken into custody with handcuffs. There's a video going around now. There's an older white lady who won't. The police officer tells her, he's asking her questions. She doesn't want to answer. She's not going to sign the citation he's trying to give her. So then she says, well, I'm not opening the car door. Then she won't get out of the car. And he ends up tasing her. And then there's this whole conversation. If she had been Black, she would have been dead. And the story. And so we have got to show the inconsistencies. And I think it's important to point to the fact that they are inconsistencies. That's how we know they know how to do better. But there is something about us that they don't see it the same. They don't see me as a Black mother raising 2 children who need me, who love me, who will be devastated if I'm dead. They don't see the humanity in me. And that is the problem with these police departments. That is the problem with those 3 racist white men that you talked about that killed Ahmaud Arbery. That's the problem. They don't see the humanity in us. And so if they don't see it in us, we have got to make the political officials, these people that we have elected, we have to make them be accountable to make sure that there are consequences when our lives are harmed, when our lives are taken.
Sadiqa, have you ever thought about the fact that, we are now, I guess Rodney King was the first time we saw with those of us who are post 60s kids saw, wait a minute, wow, police do that kind of stuff. Think about this. What about all of those Black folk, the 30s, the 40s, the 50s, early 60s, that travel the back roads of the states of Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee, trying to go to school, trying to do this, the rapes and the murders and the assaults that were never caught on camera. Did that play into our part? Did that play into Granny's part when she said, "Baby, just go to school and get your lesson and get out"? Do you think that kind of savageness on our people for so many years was just passed down to say, "Yo, we just it's gonna be all right. God gonna take care of us." Well, he will. He
I think
has. But Lord, he got to come on with some of this other stuff right now.
I think there's always been a group. There has always been at our core, I think, the desire to pray our way
Okay.
through. I also think there have always been people who have been trying to fight in different ways and with different tools. What we have been willing to accept, though, is this very gradual justice.
Hmm.
And we owe it now, like right here in Louisville, right? We are trying to figure out how to come up with an effective citizen police review board or something. We need to go for the gusto, not be tempered in what we request. It shouldn't be about what we think they will
Except.
allow us to
Yes.
do. We need to go for it. And I think that I think Black people, I think at our core, and maybe human beings at our core, we are we are forgiving. We
Yes.
want to believe the best.
Black
But
folks.
over and over and over again, we have seen where these systems that are in place just do not work for us. And yes, there is a certain amount of just praying without offering consequences or praying without real push for policy change. But I also think the way things are set up, we don't have the power. I mean, there are very few of us who get into the rooms where the power is really being wielded and where you can actually influence things. And what happens is when you get into those rooms, you are pulled in so many directions because there is so much wrong. There is so much wrong that you could every day be in a fight for your life and
Sure.
the life of your people. And I don't say that lightly. And so you begin to pick your battles. You get worn down. And so you're right. We have to have these young people who are
Yes.
fearless and willing to change and help, and they can help influence.
And you
Because
know what? When we do not, and we have to stop vilifying groups like Black Lives Matter that they had the gumption to start, and
yes,
our neo middle class, upper middle class black butts was just going to let the Lord will take care. But they went out and did something, and that's us,
yeah.
sat back and said, "Well, it don't take all that." You're a damn lie. It does.
Well,
It does.
I don't know who you mean by us because it
Not,
wasn't all of us. There are a lot of us who believe that Black Lives Matter had to exist and has to exist. That organization, they do fight like folks with nothing to lose, and I commend them. I think it is necessary. I think Martin probably was a better leader because there was a Malcolm to compare him to. And
yes.
so
Yes.
that I think to the extent that any of us are in the business of criticizing each other, we need to get past that.
Sure.
I think we should be critical of anybody who is not willing to engage in the work. I am critical of Black people who work to get to the table and then they are silent
Mm,
and self-interested only. I'm sick of those folk. I think that's important for us to call out. But I also think that people have different ways of being effective, and we do need to acknowledge that. We
sure.
need people
No
on the
doubt.
inside who can have inside conversations. And so, but that is different than getting to the place of rising into what you believe to be middle class. Like I said, law degree, I have one, 2-car garage, central air, and then all of a sudden you forget and you think
Mm,
somehow that you are set apart.
mm,
You are not different. You are still somebody whose life does not matter unless you are useful. And the moment you become not useful, you become a threat. And so then you are threatened. Your position, your success,
yes.
so we don't have a moment to forget who we are or what we look like and how connected we all are. And we owe it to one another to continue this fight. And let me be clear, there are a lot of good white people in the world who are
Sure.
also very supportive. I think we
Sure.
are in the fight of our lives.
Sure.
I think we are having a very, in a sense, passive aggressive kind of civil war. And in some cases, it's very aggressive, right? Because we still got people losing their lives. But I also think we are at a crossroads in America, and we have to decide what kind of country we are willing to be.
Yes.
And so there is this government that is as corrupt as it can be, as far as I'm concerned, on a national level.
Yes.
And then there are people who want to see something different. And the question becomes, who is going to win? How much blood has to be shed in order for us to have something different? And when I think people get, oh, bloodshed, but we're already shedding blood.
Yes,
I mean, we've
right.
already lost so many people who were innocent or people who were guilty of something, but they didn't deserve to die. And by the Constitution that I read in America, you have a right to a speedy trial.
That's right.
You have a right to a trial by jury. But nobody has the right to blow your brains out because you're running down the street or because you go into a house and look at whatever you look at, or
no matter what it was, who cares what it was?
No matter what it was. But I want to say, as for our community, if there has ever been a time that we needed to come together, I don't care what group it is, we need to figure out where we align, who's willing to go this far, who's willing to go this far. And we need to either be supportive or shut the hell up, because this is about fixing this world so that we can live in it. We have spent so much time trying to make other people's experiences in this country bearable, but no one has been invested in making sure that our experience was bearable. And I don't want to see somebody else be buried, and I don't want to live in fear.
That's right. That's right. Let me say this. You mentioned, and before we go to another subject, the law. You're talking about a police review board. We have one of those in my community, a police law enforcement review board. Mm-hmm. Just as a side note for you and you all in your deliberations, if you ain't got no subpoena power,
that's right,
and if you ain't got the power to levy any type of fine or any kind of consequence, don't worry about it. I'm just going to be real with you, because the damn union will fight you. The city will fight the union, and everybody's going to fight whatever. It ain't going to work if you don't have subpoena power. It doesn't matter. And I hate to say it, and you're an attorney, but you know this. If the board doesn't have any teeth, it's a bad mouth bear. It's all it is. It's just a big old bear.
And we've already got that. And let me tell you something. We this time we need to go balls to the walls on this. We need to get everything we are supposed to get and get it done. I mean, and if we can't get a review board with subpoena power,
that's right.
We don't need it. We should not settle. We cannot settle. We can no longer move forward on the basis of people's good intentions. Good intentions are not saving us. Good intentions are not making it better. We have the potential. I think Louisville is small enough still. I know we are a good sized city, but we're small enough to be an example of what could be the best in the country. And I want that for us. That's why I'm still here. I believe this city has all kinds of potential. I love this city. There are a lot of wonderful things about it, but I have the right to be critical. And I have to be critical. I think I represent people who have no voice, who don't have the power. And in many cases, I don't have the power that I think I should have in the position that I'm in. And that's just across the board, right? That's not about me.
Sure.
It's just about being a Black woman in America and what that feels like. And I'm not even talking about just being a Black man. And just this skin has so... You walk into the room with challenges that people who don't look like us can never understand. And they can love us, they can support us, they can push for us, fight for us, and pray for us. But they cannot fully understand the burden of it, or the blessing for that matter.
The skin in which we're in, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, and let's talk about the skin in which we're in from a standpoint of, I think you all have some pretty good leadership in the Commonwealth. Bashir, I think, has proven himself, and I think him stepping out saying, Bashir saying he wants to see some level of he wants to see some kind of justice. I think the statement he made from a governor of a state that does not have a very large Black population at all, but I think because he's a governor of everybody, Bevin wouldn't have said what he said. Greg Fisher, who seems to be a pretty good mayor, I'm impressed with what he's saying. I want to see something come out of this other than rhetoric, right? And so I know you're there, and I'm sure whomever the person is in the NAACP, hopefully the Greek community, hopefully all of the community is there and going to hold all of these officials to feet to the fire to say, look, there had to be some wrong. You first of all, the guy is in custody. What? He's already in custody. Where was the breakdown, Sadiqa? Where was the breakdown? Tell us a little bit about this before we get out of here.
About the Breonna Taylor
Yeah.
case.
Yes.
I hate to say this, but I'll tell you, I think the affidavit for the warrant is the first place where you have
Yeah.
dishonesty in this case. I don't think the affidavit is going to survive scrutiny.
Wow.
I imagine that the officer filled out the affidavit and took it to the judge, and he did what they do. There was some explanation around it. You know, you kind of talk judges through it, and I say this from firsthand experience because I served as a district court judge. And so I think the judge signed that warrant. There are many judges in this city that would not have signed the warrant. I'll tell you that. But even if they would have, let's imagine that they would have. I think there were some. The affidavit is flawed. The affidavit is flawed. If you think about how often and the dates, when was the date that they saw the car? When was the date that they saw him allegedly leaving her home with a package, and what was in the package? Was it suspicious or not? But the way it's all put together, you think about it as a series of things, it makes it seem much more complicated. And then even in the reporting of it, when the media told the story of the officers going into the home, executing a warrant. At the time of the execution of the warrant, a suspect being in, firing at an officer, shooting the officer, and then the other suspect being killed at the scene. The way that story sounds, it just sounds like a whole different scenario. But as things have come out, for me, it was the Washington Post story. When that came out and I really heard these different facts, even before that, I was already questioning why would they not be wearing body cameras? I don't understand the idea that you would be executing a search warrant in a community that has fought for body cameras. Why would they not have body cameras on? I don't understand not wearing those body cameras. So, and then the answer is, well, because the police were undercover. Well, no, you're not. When you're going to serve a search warrant, the minute you walk in, you pull out those handcuffs to arrest somebody, your cover's blown. So if you're executing a search warrant, you absolutely have to have body cameras. And then I've heard the issue of whether or not body cameras were available. Well, yeah, they probably were available because we've lost a lot of police officers lately. We've had resignations, retirements. I think they have enough body cameras present in the building that everybody could have had on a body camera. I also look at the amount of time it took to execute the warrant. So from the time it was signed to the time it was executed, why did they wait so long if it was exigent? So I think there's a place for no-knock entry. And I think that's when, if you think about the case in Cleveland, where the man had the women in the basement, you active crime scene. I mean, not drugs that you think are stored somewhere. No, it's unacceptable. And I think our department is going to pay. They're going to pay dearly. It is my understanding that Kenneth is going to be released. Charges will be dropped if they haven't been already. There was a press conference a little bit earlier. I didn't have a chance to see it for myself, but I think that that's right, that the charges will be dropped. And, they'll decide later, oh, we might go back and prosecute, but I don't think so. I think this case is going to cost the city more than just Breonna's life. It's going to cost a lot of money, but for both Kenny and Breonna, because they have been, it's horrible. And let me just say this, Breonna Taylor's mother, Black women are generally strong. Just women generally anyway, right? But black women,
go ahead, woman.
Yeah. This woman, I told her, I said, I won't allow myself to imagine what you've been through, because I can't allow my heart to go there. I don't know how to come back from that kind of thing. And the way she has stood and fought for her child and fought for justice and the way she is fighting for reform, it is remarkable. Her strength, and this woman is still going to work every day, serving people, having lost her child. She is still taking care of patients and doing what she's supposed to do and giving interviews between jobs, between it. And I mean, she is, we owe it to her to respond differently. We owe it to her to get behind her and make sure things get changed. And I wanted her to know her daughter's death was not going to go unnoticed. People
Yes.
were aware, but you have the investigation and you ask questions and you keep asking questions and you keep pushing, and then there's no or yes, and there, again, there's one side. All you get is one side, and then eventually you get that Washington Post story and you realize this information is so incongruent. The omissions are so glaring that there's no, we can't even wait for the investigation to finish to make a comment. So I have to tell you, if she had not hired an attorney and moved forward, I don't think we'd even be moving forward right now.
Right.
I think with most, we would be waiting for the investigation. And there were definitely people in community that were pushing and saying, hey, what's going on with this or what's going on with that? But you would not see this kind of outcry or this kind of change if she were a different kind of woman and if she had just taken this from police. And I am proud of her, and I'm in awe because
Yeah.
I mean it's she's a special woman.
You know, Sadiqa, I cannot give enough praises for you and what you do in the city of Louisville, in the Commonwealth of Kentucky. Um, your light shines bright. Your work, your service, I think people see that in Louisville. I know Larry thinks the world of you. Everybody thinks the world of your work. Sean said the same thing. She's wonderful. She's it. She's the activist.
I love
Keep fighting. We're going to keep sending our positive energy that way. We need to send some money to the Urban League as well. Those, just like people have campaigns all across the country. Well, send me some money because I'm running against da da da. Send some money to the Urban League of Louisville, folks. Write a check. You can do that. That you can do. So this advocacy work can continue. Thank you again for being on Funky Politics.
Thank you. And please know that there are so many good people in Louisville who are working so hard. I
Sure.
am not alone, and I'm not always in the front. Sometimes I'm in the back, but wherever I am, I'm always fighting for our people, and I will until the day I die. And I thank you and Larry for being so supportive. This is hard work. It
Yeah.
is emotionally draining.
Yep.
And I cannot count the number of days I have cried alone just during COVID-19. But I'm
Yeah.
telling you, I have the strength to just fight on because of people like you. So thank you so much. I appreciate
Well,
it.
I'll tell you what, when this COVID-19 thing has passed, we're going to, Larry and I are going to come to Louisville, and we're going to get some of that, Greg Fisher talking about some of that good bourbon y'all got. We're going to come sit down with you. We ain't going to cry. We just going to talk and laugh
Well,
because we got over. Because we got.
Greg Fisher he got to finish cleaning up that police department before we drink any bourbon.
Oh, Lord, praise the Lord, everybody. Hey, look, we're going to get out of here while we got a chance.
Bye.
Sadiqa, thank you so much. I got some closing thoughts here on Funky Politics in just a
Take
second.
care.
And we're back here on Funky Politics. When I have Sadiqa Reynolds on this show, I can just sit back, throw out a question, and I'm going to let her talk because what the sister says is what the sister says. She's not one person that talks something but walks differently. Yes, Central Air, but she's been there. You get my point. Yes, I got 2-car garage, but I've had to walk and catch the bus too before. School wasn't always as great to me as it's been to some other people. We are encouraged by the work that's happening in Louisville. We're encouraged by the work that she's doing at the Urban League. And as I said again, if you're so inclined, their donations. It's a nonprofit. They're always willing to accept funds for the work that they do, the advocacy work they do in the city of Louisville. And we're sending I don't want to say thoughts. We're sending our prayers and our positive energy toward Breonna's mother, because at the end of the day, she now has to have some justice for her daughter. So, as I said again, right here on Funky Politics, folks, social distance is still the buzzword of the day. Washing those hands 20 seconds is still the right thing to do. Mask wearing in public is the best thing to do. Once again, thank you so much for being a part of our family here at Kazukian, especially on Funky Politics. And I will see you the very next time. I'm out of here.